On today's First Edition, comedian Richard Pryor talks about his new autobiography and why he's still laughing in the face of disease, drugs, and divorce. Wonder Boy Michael Chabon talks about his present success and future dreams. And chuckle with us as Dave Barry shows us his guide to guys. That's next on today's First Edition.
Major funding provided by Barnes & Noble Booksellers. With almost 200,000 titles to choose from, Barnes & Noble is the book lover's second home.
Humor plays a starring role in this week's show. Hello and welcome to today's First Edition. I'm Rita Channon. Comedian Richard Pryor has seen it all, stunning success and tabloid headline tragedies. When we visited him in his San Fernando Valley home, Pryor told us people were calling him and saying they heard he was dead. That's just one of the reasons he decided to write his memoirs, Pryor Convictions and Other Life Sentences, as he tells us in this week's cover story.
Everybody written already, people that I'd never talked to, and they wrote about my life, and they put it out as this is the Richard Pryor story.
That drive you nuts?
Yeah, it drove me kind of wacko. So I said, well, all I do, especially after I found out I had this thing, this MS stuff, I said, look, I'll go tell it in my own words, and they'll leave me alone, maybe, hopefully.
There's a lot to tell about Richard Pryor, beginning in Peoria, Illinois. He was born in a house of prostitution run by his grandmother, a woman he dearly loved and feared. He called her Mama. When you were a little boy in Peoria, though, did you ever think that you would be this successful, that you would find this much fame?
No, never. I thought, I kept my fingers crossed that I wouldn't end up in the penitentiary. I was very afraid of that, but I didn't. And I'm happy about that. I'm happy at the choices I made. They turned out all right, but they were scary to go into show business and not have no act.
He's not kidding when he says he didn't have an act. He didn't even have prepared material.
Material? Come on. Material. I used to read Jet magazine, and they had Dick Gregory. And I'd read what he said, and I said, so I worked that joke into my act. So that's how I started.
That was 1961. By 1963, Richard was doing stand-up in New York City, and by the mid-60s, he was playing Las Vegas, making several $1,000s a week, most of which he was spending on drugs. By the end of the 60s, he had a serious cocaine habit, and his second marriage was breaking up. Richard has been married 6 times to 5 different women. He has 6 children.
3 little ones and 3 big ones. And the big ones, 2 of them like me, and the 3 little ones love me a lot.
As Richard's marriages fell apart, he says he always remained faithful to Lady Cocaine. Most everyone remembers the freebasing incident when he turned himself into a human torch. Just one of the many rumors flying around afterwards was attempted suicide.
I wanted to hurt this person. I didn't want to commit suicide, but I wanted to hurt him. I was, what they call, insane. Yeah. And I thought what I was doing was, in God's eyes, to prove to him I could do it, that I would do something all extraordinary.
Of all the hands he's been dealt, Richard says the diagnosis of multiple sclerosis is the toughest. But he deals with it, because as he put it, what choice does he have?
There's nothing you can do. Nothing. I've seen people with MS. God just gave me a little bit. I've been to conferences, and I've seen people really messed up.
It would be nice if you take a little walk with Mara.
Yes.
Okay? Do you think you can manage down the hall into the bedroom?
Yes.
Ex-wife and personal assistant Jennifer Lee has stepped back into Richard's life in a big way. She sees to it that he goes to physical therapy and refuses to coddle him. Jennifer has an office in the house, and so does Richard. She's encouraging him to go back on the road, and he's thinking seriously about doing it because there is nothing else like it.
At least I got my health.
That's right.
You go there and they laugh, and you go there and they laugh. And it's maddening because you're in control. It's devastatingly wonderful.
The applause keeps coming. Richard was recently inducted into the Comedy Hall of Fame. Bob Newhart did the honors.
I love you, Bob. I remember when I was a kid, I stole your album. No, I did. It was Bob Newhart. I just said nobody. I didn't have no money, so I stole it.
If you could live your life over again, would you do anything differently?
I'd go up to the guy that allowed me to live it over and punch him in the nose. I wouldn't like to do stuff over. The cards came out the way they came out. I'm glad they came out the way they did. For heaven's sake, I'm glad God allowed me to travel the one I did. There's nothing like it. Nothing that I've ever experienced.
Life experience is certainly something Richard has a lot of. It makes most of us tired just thinking about it. I asked him if he was comfortable with his life, at peace with himself.
At this moment I am. Talk to me in a couple minutes.
Richard Pryor told us he's working on his health and hopes to get back on the stage once again.
It's contemporary, set in the horse country in Virginia, thoroughbred racing background, romantic suspense, sex and murder.
A novel from one of America's best-selling romance writers tops our hot cover segment this week. The new book by Nora Roberts is called True Betrayals and should be in stores by July. And speaking of true betrayals, the true story of political betrayal by alleged spy Aldrich Ames is coming to bookstores in a big way. Betrayal, the story of Aldrich Ames, is based on jailhouse interviews with the accused spy, and it's just one of 3 books due out this summer on this sensitive subject.
I figure you're going to sell this, Jacqueline, am I right? You're going to peddle this out in the hallway there.
On the lighter side of the nonfiction shelf comes the story of movie maker Gary Marshall.
It's about surviving in Hollywood and breaking in.
In Wake Me When It's Funny, the man behind blockbusters like Pretty Woman and bombs like Exit from Eden tells us his Hollywood tale with the help of his daughter.
This is my daughter, Lori. She wrote the book with me, and she's pregnant, and there's going to be twins right here in a little while, if you stay.
And switching to fiction, our final hot covers this week are 2 works which are widely anticipated. Independence Day is Richard Ford's follow-up to his bestseller, The Sports Writer. And horror king Stephen King is back to his old frightening self with Rose Madder, a book critics say fans will flock to this summer. Happy reading.